Dive in the deep end, it's time to defend your movie.
Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 1 of Defending Your Movie. I am your host, Jeremy Meyer. So today, our very first episode is not actually going to be about a movie. Instead, I don't want to use the term interviewing, but there is a little bit of interview there to it. Having a chat with Matthew Rorie, who currently works at GiantBomb.com, which is a popular video game website that I have been a fan of for a long time. But what brings him on the podcast is the fact that he is actually the former co-founder of Screened.com, which was a movie site that started in 2010 and 2011, somewhere in that range, and ran for a few years after that before eventually being shut down. And I was a big fan of the Screened website. It was the only website I have ever, in my entire time on the internet, got super invested in, like, the forum and the community. That was just something I never really did. I'm on the internet a lot, but outside of like social media, which was new to me at the time, I wasn't using it a lot then. It was just kind of foreign to me to get involved in a community, but that website, those guys, and coming off of Giant Bomb and stuff is how I discovered them. But being that it was about movies, and I was always more passionate about movies than I was video games, I just got super sucked in to the website and very invested in the work they were doing. They had a podcast I listened to every week. And more importantly, they had a video series called Defending Your Movie. Now, Defending Your Movie is, as a podcast, well, I don't know why I said that so weird. Podcast is actually inspired by their video series. And when I originally was doing the Shelved Film podcast, I wanted to do content like that for the podcast. So I reached out to them on Twitter and asked if they cared if I did that. Like, hey, I want to do these episodes on Shelves. Do you care? And both of them were like, no, we're totally cool with it. Like, hey, we don't own the idea of like defending a movie. So it's like, all right, cool. And, I did it once on the Shelf podcast, and I meant to do it more, and then, honestly, that podcast went the way it did, and I just never really had the time. But when I came up with the idea of doing this as a full-on podcast, it was very important to me that I wanted to reach out to them and kind of ask them to be on the show. Now, I reached out to both, and Matt Rorie and Alex Navarro were the two guys who, they had a lot of help on the website, which we talk about in the episode, but they were the two guys. They were the co-founders of the site. And I reached out to both of them, and Rorie was, very, polite and, offered to come on the show. And, Alex was currently in the middle of launching a new endeavor, and I never really heard back from him. So I just kind of wrote it off like, dude seems very busy. He recently just launched a website of his own and Patreon and all that stuff. So kind of took that as it was, like, okay, super busy over there. That's fine. But Rorie came on the show and we had a really great conversation. We talked all about Screened and his time there and what it was like and just the crazy kind of guerrilla operation they had over there. But then, we do get into some movie talk as well. We talk about some of our favorite movies and some comic book movies and movies as escapism and, the difference between viewing movies as a critic versus just watching movies as a fan and things like that. It was a really fun conversation. I was super appreciative of Matt Rorie coming on the show to kind of relive the memories of Screened. And, hopefully, I kicked around the idea of like, hey, it'd be really great if you guys ever got some kind of reunion together. And, hopefully that's something that happens down the line. But even if you weren't like familiar with the website, this is a super fun chat. And honestly, because of him and the work they did, it is the inception of this podcast. So I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did. It's a really fun conversation. But before we get into that, let me remind you that we do have some stuff you can check out. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/defendingmovie. Also the same as our social media at Defending Movie on Twitter and Instagram, if you can keep up with all the news of the podcast. If you want to pick up any of our merch, we have 3 t-shirts up right now at belowthecollar.com/defendingyourmovie. You can find our merch over there. So without further ado, let's get into our conversation about Screened.com with Matt Rorie. All right, so first, I know it took us a little bit to get this set up, but I just wanted to thank you for sitting down to do this. Like, I always appreciate, it's something you didn't have to do, and appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, no worries. I'm sorry it took so weird of a week, but it's been a very busy week, so I appreciate you being flexible with the timing. So,
oh, absolutely, a very busy time of year. Yeah. So when I started this podcast, or I had a previous podcast, and it was one of those ones where it just kind of became too much work balancing with the day job. Mm-hmm. And when I started this one, it was something I was kind of doing on the other podcast, and it was always because of what you guys did on Screen. And mm-hmm. it was Screened was maybe the first website that I ever got super involved in the community. Like, mm-hmm. I was kind of just never that person, but for some reason that one I used the blog feature quite a bit and stuff. And so like it was important for me, like, doing this. I had reached out to you guys before to, like, I know you guys didn't have ownership over the idea or anything, but to kind of just get your blessing. But it was important for me to have one of you on, as just
sure.
To kind of like honor what you guys did and what I appreciated.
That's nice.
But yeah, like, Screen was, kind of like the first big website for me that, like, I got involved in. But I'm just curious, like, how was it that, like, brought you into this whole thing?
It was a weird time. Like, I go back to my emails every once in a while from 2010 or so. I think it's when the idea came up, because Giant Bomb started in 2008. They wanted to expand a different kind of, media. They wanted to expand the media company that they had. Started off with Comic Vine, Giant Bomb. I think Screen might have been the third one. Anime Vice, I think, was actually the very, very first one. But they kind of wanted to have a bigger media company. And movies and TV are kind of the obvious choice after games. So we had a very tight crew. Me and Alex were the only two people who kind of, we knew all the Giant Bomb people from back in the day, back at GameSpot. And Alex and I were both very into, we were both very into movies and TV. So we kind of came on board as a adjunct, kind of the Giant Bomb of movies and TV. And once we both, I think Alex was at Harmonix at the time, I was at Obsidian. So we just kind of decided to go ahead and do this thing, a movie-based website. It was a very tight, very, very small crew. Like I said, it was just me and Alex for a long time of it. We had some freelancers eventually, but we also wanted to do bigger and better things. So we kind of had freelancers later on. But for the most part, it was just me and Alex trying to run a movie website in 2010. And it was a kind of a crazy time. We started at the same time. Alex was running it for a while. We did the first year together. Alex, after a year in, started to go to more Giant Bomb. At that point, I kind of took over and ran the next year of that website. So we're just trying our best to get a lot of content out, and it was a crazy, crazy time. A lot of busy work. I think the second year I was working 70, 80 hours a week, just trying to get everything up. I was trying to put up, like, my goal was to put up 8 pieces of content a day. And at the time, if you've looked at a media website or a movie or TV focused website, they usually have, God, I don't know, 10, 20 people working on a website. We had 2 people full-time, and at the second year it was me full-time and then Alex half-time, a few freelancers doing features. But apart from that, it was pretty tight, pretty compressed in terms of time frame. So it was just a really busy time, and we did our best. It didn't quite work out in the end. I think it worked out fine in terms of being a website, but it wasn't quite big enough to be a long-term thing. And at some point, the website decided to sell to CBS, and or sell half of it to CBS. The Giant Bomb side went to CBS, and we kind of were, I think that Screened was sold to another company that didn't really know what to do with it. And at that point, we kind of, I was laid off, and Alex went on to Giant Bomb, and I was kind of off on my own. But for the 2 years of Screened, I was really proud of what we did. We had some really good features. I think we did some really good edited videos before. I think the last 10 years, we've seen a lot of YouTube people do amazing stuff with movie criticism and movie videos, edited stuff, live streams talking about. I know people talk about Star Wars for 4 hours in a row. So we were. I don't want to say we were the first people doing it, because I know there were a lot of people doing it before that, but we had a really great time, and I think we had some really good content. It's unfortunately it's all gone now because the company that we sold Screen to kind of decided to not keep it up.
Yeah, does anybody still have any of that stuff? Like, I was actually aside from the Wayback Machine, like,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of Screen content that still exists.
No, it's all really tough. I mean, I think we were starting up at a time where editing videos about movies, because we did, defending your movie and a lot of other features, which were movie clips cut up, all very legitimate. We were all doing stuff that was, movie commentary and immune to copyright strikes and everything like that. But you know how movie studios are. They will go after people on YouTube and things like that. We weren't really doing a lot of YouTube mirroring at the time, but the people who wanted to take that stuff down, we had a hard time dealing with that. But for the most part, we were kind of left alone and let us do what we wanted. We have Joey Famelli was our video editor, and he was always recording stuff, and we were always trying to edit stuff together for features. So it was a nice little crew. Didn't quite live as long as we would like to. It's a real bummer that none of this stuff is visible on the site anymore or on YouTube. But all that stuff was kind of obviously tough to get around copyright strikes. But for the brief shining moment of 2 years from 2010 to 12, we did some good work, I hope.
Well, it's definitely something that stuck with me over this time. Like I said, it was the first website that really pulled me into the community, and you specifically were very active with the community. I remember, I think it was like every week there was something in the forums, like a community spotlight thing. You were pretty much running that whole situation.
Yeah, I think we did community spotlights. We did try to get that on the homepage because a lot of people are doing really good movie reviews and forum topics about movies and everything like that. We try to feature them as best we could. I've always been a big proponent of community stuff, community contributions, because people put a lot of time into that. And even on Giant Bomb now, we have a lot of people doing a really amazing work on the wiki, amazing work on reviews and everything like that. So I try really hard, and honestly, the mods now on Giant Bomb are very good about trying to float anything that is community focused. There's the GB Duders feed on Twitter, which highlights a lot of stuff that is coming out. But for Giant Bomb, or for Screened, I should say, we had a lot of amazing community members who latched on really quickly. And we tried to make sure that some of that stuff was floated as best we could. Couldn't always do as good a job as I would like, because a lot of people were doing really amazing work that I couldn't always find the time to float. But we had an amazing community. It's one of those things you get with a website as opposed to a YouTube kind of channel, which a lot of people have now. It's tough to get, if you're a YouTube channel publishing edited videos, it's really tough to get community members involved in that kind of stuff, except for interacting with them in comments. But on Screened, I thought we did. We had so many good people. We tried to bring some of them into being freelancers and paid contributors as we could. But it was just a weird time, and we had a great time doing it. But in the end, it was just kind of a weird thing where we couldn't quite. We did our best to float community stuff for sure. But it was a definitely just a weird time all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, I was featured in that a few times because I actually did defending your movie as like blog posts on the website. I think I wrote like 3 or 4 of them, and I got featured in that a few times, and it was always nice, Pull that up every Monday or whatever it was and see you in there.
It was great. I mean, I appreciate every community member that we ever had. It really sucks that the entire website was kind of scrubbed from the internet, but it's a learning lesson for a lot of people where what you do on the internet might not live forever.
Yeah.
It's a lesson to learn, and it's tough. It really, really sucks that all the video content that we did is kind of gone. I have Word documents of scripts that I used to write for Defending Your Movie and the other features that we did, but um, yeah, all that stuff is on, I think, a hard drive that Joey Fameli has somewhere, but trying to get that up at any point would be probably disastrous because of all the content matching and DMCA stuff. They'd probably take it down pretty quick. But
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure
next
YouTube
time I seen
has
Joey,
made their rules even more strict and recently.
yeah, I mean, honestly, I think everything that we did in terms of movie features would be it's valid criticism of movie content, and I think that would live beyond like getting YouTube copyright strikes, but at some point that becomes a full-time job, just
Yeah.
contesting all those content takedowns and everything like that. So that content might not float anytime soon, but who knows what the future might bring. Next time we see Joey Fameli, maybe we'll try to get those hard drives out of storage and see what happens.
Oh, it'd be awesome to see any of that video content.
Yeah.
Even just looking through on archive.org or whatever, like I had forgotten, like, Defending Your Movie was obviously the one that stuck with me the most, but there was like the Half Good and Remake Rematch and stuff like that. Like a lot of stuff I just kind of forgot about.
It was, I'm not gonna lie to you, Remake Rematch was probably the most time consuming, because sometimes we'd had to watch like 3 different movies, and for me the process of making those videos was, or for me and Alex, we were watching sometimes 3 or 4 different movies, trying to get time codes from each one, trying to get those off to a video producer, and having him honestly would take a week sometimes to get a single video feature produced, because he would have to watch all the movies. Joey would have to take a look at all of them and would have to find the time codes that I pointed out, but also to get the context, he would have to watch, sometimes like 8 hours of movies just to see what I was trying to talk about. And all these things. Defending Your Movie was a little bit easier because it was just usually one movie, but it was sincerely a huge amount of time for everybody involved. And on top of that, we were trying to do blog posts, trying to do text posts, trying to get freelancers paid, and it was just a tremendous amount of time. I don't regret the amount of time, but it was also, it was a significant kind of time effort to get everything up.
Yeah, with only like the 2 of you, was there ever the option to even bring in anyone else?
Full time, no. I think we learned because we were losing a lot of money. Whiskey Media was in the day. Even with Giant Bomb, it was kind of, there was an investment involved in terms of getting people up to speed and trying to get this whole media company up and running, but we were losing money. Weren't making a lot on ads. Giant Bomb Premium was doing pretty well, but everything else on that Comic Vine screened with full-time employees, full-time pay, healthcare, all that other kind of stuff. It was really tough to kind of get. When you're losing money, it's easy to say that you need more people to make money, but at the point that we were running at, it was a little bit tougher to justify adding more people. We did a lot of freelance stuff. We had some people from the community come in, did some amazing work on freelance articles and things like that, but in the end, it wasn't making much money, and they decided to settle off, which is justifiable. It's tough. I mean, business is business. You can't lose money forever, and... Yeah. In the end, Screened was kind of one of the casualties of the whole thing. Like I think we're ahead of the curve. If we were doing that now, we'd probably do straight to YouTube. Just do the kind of stuff that a lot of movie people do on YouTube. Try to make that your thing. But in the end, trying to run a website and all these other media channels didn't quite work out. But I'm still pretty proud of the work that we did, for sure.
Yeah. Was there any like one thing that kind of stood out to you as like your favorite thing you did with Screened?
Man, honestly, I think that it was such a blur. Like the first year I was working with Alex, trying to get everything published, you really need to have that kind of constant drip feed of content being published throughout the day to get people coming back. And I was very cognizant of that. I think the thing I'm most proud of is that we put in the work, I think especially the second year when Alex was over on Giant Bomb at halftime, I think I was really proud of the amount of effort we put into it. Not all of it would maybe stand the test of time, but we definitely put in a lot of work in terms of trying to get articles up, freelance articles up, our own videos edited together. It was just a tremendous amount of work, and I'm people can say whatever they want to about the reviews and the content, but I think the amount of work speaks for itself in terms of just the amount of stuff we were putting up. The amount of content is not always the most important thing. Ultimately, the quality is the most important thing.
Sure.
I think we struck a really good balance between quality and quantity. And it's a much different kind of environment. Like, we were trying to do kind of I think the big thing over the last 20 years has been AV Club for me, has been very good about covering media, TV, movies. Obviously, they have a way bigger staff. We were trying to do that kind of thing with 2 people and like 3 freelancers, 4 freelancers, maybe. So I think what we did in that time, covering everything that was coming out, all the news and everything like that, was I was hoping it'd be like a one-stop shop for media and TV news, but and hopefully people thought that it was. But in the end, it wasn't quite enough to get the traction that we wanted to. We had honestly, we're really trending up over the next second year. We were doing I think we gained like 50% page views over the second year that we did in the first year. And it was really kind of going up. And in the end, it was still losing money. So, I don't know. I'm proud of everything, to be honest with you. I'm not at all sad about what we did. I think we did really good work.
No, like the fact that it was only 2 of you, it's impressive that the website was as put together as it was. Like, that's not many people to be running as big of an endeavor as that was.
And I can't say it's just the 2 of us. We had Dave Snyder. We had a lot of engineers who were really responsive to our needs. It's Giant Bomb still to this day is very complicated. It's a wiki, a forum, front page, editorial, video, podcast, all that kind of stuff. They're super complicated websites to build. Screened at the same time was the same way. Like, we had a very busy wiki, and it was a lot of moving parts that were honestly wrangled about as best as we could for a small kind of team that we had. It was a lot of people working nights and days, working round the clock almost. I was single at the time, which is lucky because I just had more time to put into the thing. And it was a real gut punch when it all kind of shut down. I mean, it was a lot of work that we put into something that kind of went away. And it's really, that sucked. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. I mean, I was super pumped out when all of a sudden...
Can we curse on this website?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
good. Okay.
Yeah, no, it was because I got introduced to Giant Bomb around 2010 through like a mutual friend, like introduced me to the podcast. And then that led me to Screen like shortly after. And it was one of those things where like my friend would always be like, "Oh, you catching up on all the Giant Bomb stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, but like Screened." And he was more into the game side. But yeah, I mean, I could easily say like, "Hey, some reviews you wrote like definitely led me to some movies." And I think I remember even specifically, because I think you had joked about this at one point, that you had given Burlesque a 4. And my wife is a massive Christina Aguilera fan, so I had taken her to see that in the theater, and I was like, "Yeah, it's a pretty good movie."
That might have been Alex, because I don't remember reviewing Burlesque, but maybe that was me. I'm not sure.
I thought it was you.
I might have been, because honestly, it's been 10 years now.
Yeah.
Let me check my Gmail real quick and look at the documents, because my Gmail account still has all the scripts that I wrote. Wow. So I don't know if people know the story at this point, but I was, for the reviews, we were not a big enough media website to get, now that you say this, it's kind of coming back to me a little bit. Burlesque. No text documents found. So we were not a big enough website to get access to media screenings. Because back in the day, it would be, a lot of movies would come on a Friday. They'd have a media screening on like a Wednesday night in a big theater. Mm-hmm. And if you were San Francisco Chronicle, you were, some bigger newspapers, they would get you in. But we never quite got to the point where we could do that reliably. So now we're going to flashbacks. We would get on in order to get a timely review in, which is basically Friday afternoon, you would have to. At least went to movies at midnight on Thursday night, which is when they started debuting.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, when people wanted to go to the movies, they'd go, "Oh yeah." Now it's like, I don't think people care as much about the theater experience with streaming, but I would go to a movie theater a couple miles away from me in San Francisco at midnight, 12:01. They'd start the movie. I would go there, try to take notes in the movie theater to write my review, get back home at like 3 a.m. usually, and I would try my best to crank out a quick review and have it ready for like copy edit. Not that there was any copy edit. It was basically like, hey, I'd send it off to Alex and say, hey, Alex, does this read like I'm not crazy? Because I felt like I was crazy half the time trying to write this stuff. I'd get 5 hours sleep, wake up, take a quick look at it, and then try to publish it before, East Coast is like already 3 p.m. or something like that. But it was just like that kind of crazy commitment to it because I cared so much about screen and wanted to work. It was just, yeah, I every Friday, because we had to come in to do, it wasn't UPF at that point. It was something different, like the Friday Whiskey Media Show. There was a name for it that I totally forget right now, but
so I'm blanking on it. I know what you're talking about.
I think it's all on
Was it just
Giant
the
Bomb.
live show, like Friday, like
Just the big live show or something. No, that was
the big yearly
twice a
one.
year. Yeah. There was a different name for it back in the day, but we were all had to be there at like 2 p.m. to get all our segments done. So from Thursday afternoon, I would know what I was going to see that night. I would try to get back, and maybe I could never take a nap. I'm not an afternoon napper kind of person, so
Same.
chug a Red Bull. Try to get there by midnight for the midnight showing wherever it was. It's different places in the city, and then get home. Try to crack out some kind of text. Just get the basic language down and a score, and then I would usually take to like 3 or 4 or sometimes 5. Try to sleep in a little bit, get up at 6 or get up at 10 or 11, bike to work, hopefully published by then before I leave my apartment. But that was the going rate. Like there was no access, there was no screeners for us, there was no nothing. I think that honestly that's getting harder and harder for everybody to get now because I think most movie studios are kind of like, yeah, we don't really, it's great to have reviews, but it's not necessary because we're going to have so much buzz from Twitter and Facebook and everything like that. It's not really, we don't need to put it in front of as many people as we can, but we never had that access. And I think we're on the verge of getting to that point by the time we almost shut down. But beyond that, it was just hustling, man. It was really trying to just
sleep.
Yeah, I slept out. I think I slept 5 hours a night on Thursday night. Tried to get to work, and try to just Red Bull my way through the day, and then try to get ready for the weekend. And the weekend was also mostly kind of trying to get ready for the features next week. So if you had a defending your movie or a remake rematch, I would have an idea for what I wanted to do. But then Saturdays and Sundays were just pure trying to watch 8 movies in a row and trying to get notes together. And if you've never watched a movie with the idea that you're going to make a video feature, it's a very slow process. You're watching a movie, you're rewinding, you're getting time codes, you're trying to get all that stuff together for your video producer. If you want to be shitty about it, you can just say, hey, cut this together, no time codes. But I always tried to try to get time codes together because that would make Joey's life easier. So, it was a crap load of work. It's the hardest work I've ever done in my life for sure.
Yeah, I mean, especially with, such a small crew and like it, I mean, even being a fan of the site, it always felt like a fly by the seat of your pants experience there.
Totally.
Because on top of that, you guys are also doing a weekly podcast as well.
Yep.
So,
and I think we recorded those Friday mornings, if I recall, because that was when the movie news were like really hitting, like Friday morning, like that's when you had to talk about the movies that came out. I did most of those podcasts behind the screen door. I think I did a lot of those on like 3 hours sleep, and half of them were like incoherent, just not my best work ever for sure. It was just sleep deprivation 24/7. So I remember a few moments on behind the screen door where I just like, I can't believe I said that, but I was just so tired and exhausted the entire time. It was a whirlwind for sure.
Yeah, 10 years ago me didn't notice because it was part of my weekly rotation.
Yep.
Um, yeah, man, it's just so crazy, like how much you guys were kind of forced to do.
It
And
was, we all signed up for it. It was a .com. It was a startup. It was,
yeah,
all that kind of stuff. It was San Francisco. We had an amazing office. That Front Street Whiskey Media office was amazing, and we had a great time. But I was also like,
that was
I
the one
couldn't
with the
do it.
bar, right?
Yep, I got locked in that bar a couple of times over the weekend. But ultimately, it was kind of one of those things where, um, we were 30, and that's the tail end of when you can actually do this kind of stuff. Um, if I try to do it now at 40, I would no way I'd be able to do it. I have a wife now. I have dogs
Yeah,
and cats and responsibilities. But at the time, I was, living by myself. Um, and that was when you really kind of want to do that kind of stuff. If you're going to try to put in 80 hours a week into something, you need to have that kind of free time. And it was a perfect conjunction of my free time and the ability to put into a website, and it was something I'm super proud of. I wish it was still around in some way, and I know it's not, but yeah, it wasn't all great content. I would say it was something that we really tried to. The effort was there and the commitment was there, but it was also like it was just I was running the candle at both ends for most of that couple years.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, knowing what you know now with all your time at Giant Bomb since then and everything, is there anything you would have maybe done differently?
I don't know. I mean, I thought it was really important to put as much effort as possible into that thing to make it work. Um, what I know now is that, well, Giant Bomb now has more resources to get support for things that I wouldn't have had time for, or I would try to make time for back in the day. Now I know that I can kind of rely on other people to do some of this work that I was putting all of myself in that time. And there's a million people out there on YouTube trying to, or Twitch, YouTube, trying to scrape together their 8 hours a day and trying to put the best content they can out. And now, 10 years later, I think that there's stuff that I could have relied on other people to do, but I was so intent on trying to get the. I'm bad at delegating, I should say.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, so it's kind of one of those things where if I had it all to do over again, I would have probably pushed more for more resources. But again, there just weren't the money. There wasn't the money there to get the resources put together. So
Yeah, you could have pushed, but it might not have even went anywhere.
yeah, I tried my best to get another staff member the second year, but it was kind of one of those things that kept on getting pushed off and pushed off and pushed off. And in the end, there was a reason for it at the end of that year. Like, hey, we're not actually going to go forward to the screen. So I don't know if I'd do anything different. I think I put my heart and soul into that site. Blood, sweat, and tears. And it sounds silly to say that about a media website or a movie or review website where a lot of people do much more important work in more important
not
ways.
at
But
all.
yeah, I'm never would try to diminish what happened there. It was a important time for me. It was a very important time for me. It really burned me out in a lot of ways, but it was also a super fun time. Like I was just like, cruising for a year there, just working 10 hours a day, Monday through Sunday. And it was just a lot of blood on the floor. But I think other sites have done what we've done with 10 times the amount of people. And that's great. But I'm really proud of what we did with a very small staff. It really it aged me probably 5 years doing those 2 years. But we did some really good work, I think.
I mean, going into it, were you super passionate about movies, or was it like, oh, well, this is something we can do?
Me and Dave Snyder always had a connection over. I assume you know Snyder. He's formerly of Whiskey Media and moved on from Giant Bomb around the time that I came on to Giant Bomb in 2013.
Yeah, I missed Dave.
Yeah, I know, I do too. He moved out east. He's not around me anymore, but we always had this connection with movies, and we'd hang out and watch our favorite stuff back, talk about them and everything like that. And that's really what he kind of brought me back on board for, because I was at Obsidian for 2 years.
That was the
from
Alpha
08
Protocol days.
Yeah, Alpha Protocol, Fallout New Vegas. I was there for 2 years from 08 to 010. I got this email out of the blue from Snyder, and he said, hey, we're thinking about this thing for a movie website if you want to come back around. I've always been passionate about media and TV and movies. I think that's more of a young, I hate to say young man's game because that's a gendered kind of thing to say, but I think honestly, Screen kind of burned me out on a lot of movie fandom. Um, I don't,
Totally understand that because my
yeah,
day job is doing the same thing to me now.
I do not get as passionate about it as I used to. And I feel bad because all the stuff that I saw at Screen that I had to kind of choose to go see, the movies that really stick with me from that time are like Incendies and I Am Love. These foreign movies that I would never, I'm married now with dogs, and it's tougher to find time to sit down and watch a really heavy film,
Yeah.
especially with quarantine and politics being what it's been for the last 4 years. I really kind of gravitate towards popcorn kind of stuff now.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely relate to that.
I get it, but it's also like if I was doing Screen in like 2018, 2019, I probably wouldn't have the patience to sit down and watch really heavy movies, which honestly were some of my greatest loves of the Screen era. Like I seriously will point anyone to I Am Love, which is this amazing Italian film from I think 2009, 2010. One of my favorite movies of all time, but if I had that movie pop up as a opportunity to watch something on a Friday night, I probably wouldn't now because it's just too heavy, too much. And I feel bad because I feel like I'm gravitating more towards popcorn stuff and Marvel and entertainment stuff that's not going to make me feel down or anything like that, which is where a lot of amazing movies are going to make you feel pretty shitty about stuff.
I mean, one of my favorite movies is Blue Ruin, which is not a happy movie by any means.
I don't think I know it. It sounds like an anime.
No, it's like a revenge story. I mean,
oh, okay.
It's a revenge story, but it's like a guy who's trying to get revenge on somebody who killed his family, but he's completely inept at everything.
Oh, no.
He doesn't know how to use a gun, and it's like a really somber, like kind of depressing movie, but it's just very well made and a very relatable kind of like nobody main actor. I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like the stuff that I always gravitate to is like Three Colors. You could mention Blue, but like Three Colors Blue. All the Kieslowski stuff and things like that, which I had more time for. And nowadays, I just feel like I get through my workday and I don't, even for like, I play a lot of games nowadays and I just get to the point where I don't want to I kind of want to be positive about life and what I'm seeing in front of a screen and everything like that. And I feel like I'd be a very bad movie critic now because I would not want to expose myself to the kind of stuff that I felt so moving at the time. I kind of shy away from now. Like I really don't want to make time for. I shouldn't say I don't want to make time for it. Me and my wife, we explore the wider array of movies that are available. But at the end, nowadays, I just, especially over the last couple of years, I kind of want to just have a good time watching movies. Let me see a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
Let me not delve into this 10-hour prestige TV series about horrible things happening to people, which is it feels like a lot of the stuff that people love right now, or a lot of things that are very popular right now, are very. It's about trauma, and it's stuff that I kind of shy away from, and I feel bad. It's a very privileged kind of thing to say, where I kind of don't want to have that in my life right now. I was kind of forced to at Screen to watch stuff that I might not have always chosen to see on my own because it was my vocation. And some of those experiences were amazing. Again, like Incendies, it's the movie by Denis Villeneuve, who went on to do Blade Runner 2049.
One of my favorite directors in the game right now.
It's an insanely hard movie to watch, but also incredibly moving. And that's the kind of thing that I had to see before work. And it moved me incredibly. But now that I don't have to see movies for work, I probably wouldn't choose to see it, which is one of those things where it would be nice to have that kind of forced to see that kind of stuff. But I feel like I'm definitely missing out on some of the better pieces of art out there in cinema and TV. But also, hey, here we are. The last 4 years have been really rough for a lot of people. Yeah. So kind of, I want to watch Loki on a
have you been enjoying it?
I have not seen the newest episode, but yeah, honestly, people get, not to editorialize, but Marvel wasn't a huge thing in 2010. It was starting up. I think Iron Man had come out and a few other movies, but
Yeah.
I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe is one of the most tightly kind of crafted. I don't want to
Yeah.
say tightly crafted, but they know what they're doing. It's very entertaining. Most of them have a pretty good sense of humor. And it's one of those things where I really enjoy everything that I've seen, and it's I don't know. It's like the kind of thing that I go to for like I'll turn on Endgame as a side kind of movie to watch while I'm doing work,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
it's super fun. I mean, I it's weird to say this, and it is very much a privilege thing to say where I say I want to have fun with the media that I consume because so much of the world is awful right now. But that's kind of the thing that I have. If I'm not working on Giant Bomb, I will choose to be entertained by Rick and Morty or rewatching 30 Rock or something like that rather than trying to watch something that's going to be there's all this stuff out there, Handmaid's Tale and all these, I sound like a real shithead right now probably, but
No, I'm kind of with you. So like I experienced the quarantine blues. Like I was still working during quarantine just cuz like the nature of my job and everything, but
yeah.
I was feeling it not being it cuz like going to the movies is like my favorite thing and I
Yeah.
wasn't able to do it for a year. So
Yep.
like and me and my wife ended up getting COVID at one point. And like during this time we're sitting there and I was in a bad funk. Like every day was just kind of going to work and coming home and not really like sitting there with like a controller in my hand but not even wanting to play games. And what
Yep.
kind of pulled me out of it was I just decided to start rewatching the MCU
Yep.
and like just being in that again. And I got like all the way up to like Ant-Man or something before I finally just like cut out of it, but it was just
Hey, man, it's a great movie.
it's so good.
I'm not
But
gonna lie.
like it just brought me out of it. Like those
Yeah.
movies, it brings out those feelings in you.
And I get the idea that, I assume you're a white dude, I'm a white dude too. Like the idea that I want to have comfort food in terms of what I consume. I don't want to have, very kind of I engage with politics on my own terms, and I feel like I do that in a way that is in a way that is, I vote, I contribute to donations, I do my best to keep up on issues and everything like that. But at some point when I want to get back to my house and just sit down and relax for the afternoon, I don't want to have too much heavy shit. And again, pardon me, I'm burping. It's one of those things that I do wrestle with. Like there's a million movies coming out that would be amazing, I'm sure, to watch, but I kind of am in a mood where I have been basically kind of just stressed out for the last 4 years. With COVID especially, it's just been crazy.
Yeah. And
So I choose popcorn these days, and I keep on putting stuff on the list to go back and watch for stuff that I feel is important, but there's just so much heavy stuff out there, and I appreciate everybody who can put themselves through that. But I've been reading a lot of sci-fi lately, like optimistic sci-fi. I kind of want this optimism in my life right now, and that's kind of where I am. And I feel conflicted about that because I should be putting myself in front of stuff that all these artists are doing amazing work in terms of dealing with quarantine, dealing with politics, dealing with heavy shit that has gone on, and I just feel like I feel bad for putting myself in a cage of not engaging with it, but also like my mental state, I need to be in kind of a happier space from time to time, which is
yeah.
what I want from movies and TV now.
Yeah, like I've been sitting on a couple of Blu-rays and I'm like, oh, these are things I was dying to watch. I really want to watch them, but I'm just like, this tone right now, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather just go see a new Fast and Furious movie.
I disagree with that. I don't. Hi, Potus. Sorry, my dog is right here looking at me. Hey, baby, can you get Potus out? Sorry, that's gonna be hey podcast. That's my dog. Needs to go outside. Yeah, Fast and Furious. Honestly, that's one of the things that me and Alex, I don't think ever got on board with. I do not like the Fast and Furious movies. They're not my kind of dumb. I appreciate them for being
Just going for it.
popcorn, I guess. But honestly, I think the two conflicting franchises for me are like Mission Impossible versus Fast and Furious. I would always prefer Mission Impossible to that kind of stuff.
I did.
I don't know what a
marathon those last few Mission Impossible movies.
They're
and those
great.
Are
They're
like, Rogue
pretty
Nation
good.
is so fucking good.
Oh, Henry Cavill coming up and being the bad guy there. Again, they're terrible. They're not plausible in any way, shape, or form. But for some reason, I like them a lot more than Fast and Furious. And I'm really trying not to shit. I enjoy Fast and Furious for what it is,
not
but
for everybody, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, Star Wars has been kind of disappointing lately. So MCU and Mission Impossible, hey, can watch them anytime. Turn them on the background. I will watch The Raid 2 at any time. Drop of the hat. Like that's my kind of.
I pull up that final fight scene. I have like a YouTube playlist of just favorite movie fights, and that is the first one on there. And I pull it up.
The entire movie is the best fight scene I've ever seen.
Incredible.
Like any single fight scene in that movie is. It makes every other action movie bad by comparison. And there's no other genre of thing that I would say where there's one movie that's so heads and tails above everything else. But The Raid 2, any other movie, like you try to watch John Wick, it's all CGI squibs, people
as
falling
much as
down.
I love those movies, I agree.
I do like them. I'm not shitting on them, but The Raid 2 is so much better than everything else in its genre that it makes everything else in its genre kind of pale in comparison. And every time I watch, like, Nobody or any of these other kind of, punchy shooting movies, John Wick and all the others, like, so I could be watching The Raid 2 right now. And it's weird. So if you want my answer, an answer to a question you didn't ask, but The Raid 2 is, I gotta say, man, it's up there with my favorite movies of all time. Like it's something I can watch anytime. Well acted, well directed. The action scenes are goddamn glorious. So if I was doing, there's no need to do a defend your movie on that movie, but I would totally do a video essay on that movie if I could. It'd probably wind up being 3 hours long, which is what the movie about is. But
yeah, I was surprised at how long it was the first time I watched
It's really long, but it's all good.
It's so good. And my dream, and I've said this many times before, but I want that production team and that director to make a Batman movie. Like,
have you seen?
They shoot action so well.
Oh yeah, and Batman mostly punches people. Doesn't shoot people. Yeah. That's a really, really good idea.
Like that has been my. I mean, I'm super excited for that Matt Reeves movie, but that is my dream: is get the Raid team to make a Batman movie.
Have you watched any Gangs of London?
I have not.
So Gangs of London is Gareth Evans, I think that's his name, the director of The Raid and The Raid 2.
I think that's right.
Yeah, he went off to Indonesia to make those movies, and he did fucking 3. Maracau, I think is the first one, The Raid 2. He went back to, I think he said it was just kind of, I can't do another one of these. He made The Apostle for Netflix, which is really interesting. I haven't
gotten around to that one.
The Apostle's really weird. It's one of those kind of midsummer, culty kind of weird. It's not very actiony.
Yeah.
Gangs of London is an HBO miniseries he did, I think, for HBO Europe. I think it's been debuting in the US on HBO Max or something recently. But it's kind of gangs in New York-y, where the bunch of different gangs in London are trying to fight out for stakes in the big game. But the first episode, I don't want to spoil too much for you, but there's the first episode that has a guy walking into a bar where there's a big fight going on. He pulls a dart out of a dartboard, and he uses the dart as his weapon in the entire fight. It goes on. It is insane. Each episode has like one really high stakes kind of action scenes. I highly recommend it if you like The Raid. It's not quite the same, more character work, more kind of dramatic work than that, but it's really, really good. I think Gareth Evans should be given a Star Wars movie.
Oh,
honestly,
absolutely.
I think when I saw that Kaiwei, I don't know how to pronounce his name, the lead actor in The Raid and The Raid 2 was in Force Awakens. He and just eaten by a space slug. Eaten by a space slug. But then I wanted him to have a lightsaber. I was expecting that to happen, and they just kind of threw him away.
Yeah, that's a lost opportunity to not put him in like a Jedi role.
Gareth Evans, I think, is super talented. I really hope he does more stuff. But Gangs of London, I highly recommend to anybody who likes The Raid 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out because I have HBO Max. So I'm gonna
definitely should. I hopefully it's on there.
Yeah, anything that guy touches, he's one of those things I'll check out. But I just love to see him. Give him like a Batman or Daredevil, like one of those kind of
That's
heroes.
an amazing idea. Give him a Daredevil movie. I think Gareth Evans should be. He's one of those people like Ryan Johnson who I just will watch anything they do and probably love it. There are very few. There are a lot of like, Denis Villeneuve who can do no wrong as far as I can tell.
He hasn't done that many movies. He only has like
he
5
really
or 6
hasn't.
movies.
And the other person my big shame is that I haven't watched Call Me by Your Name yet. Obviously now it's a little rougher with Army Hammer being apparently a real shithead.
Whatever's going on there.
But I seriously, like, I Am Love is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I should really go back and see everything else he's done. But man, nothing can we talk about it like screened, like nothing can replace the experience of seeing some of these movies in the theater. Like I Am Love in a small theater, just crying my eyes out. That's what I miss from the ability to I like I said, screen kind of forced me to go see some movies that I might not have actually seen. And I Am Love is just, man, I have that Blu-ray. I should watch again sometime. Just a fantastic movie.
I am not familiar with it, but I pulled it up here. I'm going to check that out.
That is the best trailer that has ever made for a trailer movie. I'm saying trailer a lot. Like, the art of crafting a trailer for a movie is, obviously it's obvious in the case of like an action movie. You get the action hot scenes come together. The trailer for I Am Love is the best movie trailer I've ever seen in my life. It is atmospheric, not very wordy. It is just fantastic. If you're not gonna, even if you don't want to watch a movie, look up the I Am Love trailer, watch that. It's a work of art in 2 minutes.
No, I'm definitely gonna try to check it out. And Incendies, I had not seen that one from Denis Villeneuve. So.
Oh boy,
that's one of his only ones I haven't seen actually.
It's man, I can't even. It's one of those movies. I think I called it a tour de force in my review, and somebody's like, "Oh boy, they brought up the tour de force word." It's officially a movie website now. It is one of the most stunning kind of movies I've ever seen. Just one of those movies where everybody at the end of it just is silent. No change rattling, no keys. Everybody just kind of sits there stunned. It's a fantastic movie. I should rewatch Blade Runner again too as well at some point.
Yeah, I only saw that once.
I watched that in a movie theater with a couple friends, and it was a 2 hour 30-40. I did not get up to pee, which is a rarity for me. I pee every half an hour usually, but that movie was so compelling to sit down and watch that I just sat there all the way through and just was, it's amazing. Yeah. I might rewatch that tonight.
Are you excited for Dune?
I am. I'm not as compelled by the source material. I've read Dune.
Yeah. I tried reading Dune.
It's a fine book. I know it's one of those things where it's a acknowledged classic. It didn't really do much for me, but
it's very dry, like the book.
Yeah, literally. I will definitely watch that movie or the 2 movies. I guess it's going to be, or I think they said 1 and they want to do another one, right?
I thought I had read that he was contracted to be able to do both no matter what, but I don't know if that's true.
It's a lot of moving parts there. There are a lot of actors in there who they have to tie up. Timothy Chalamet is probably, he's probably wanted for a billion different movies. So
yeah, all of a sudden he was like the most popular thing on the planet.
I don't get it.
I even heard of him.
I get he's attractive. I get that if I was a 15-year-old girl, I'd be all over him, but I don't quite get it myself. He was really good in Lady Bird, and some of the other stuff I've seen him in, but I don't quite get the.
Was it the Call Me by Your Name that blew him up?
He was in there too. Yeah, he was in there too, and he definitely blew him up. I think Lady Bird was the one that I saw him in. I liked Lady Bird a lot. I thought Lady Bird was a fantastic movie.
Yes, that one I missed.
Oh no, you should definitely check it out. I don't know where you are. You're Chicago.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar. I think it was set in Sacramento was the city that they were talking about, but Greta Garwig I think was very tied in with what's his name who did Francis Ha and The Marriage Story on Netflix. Oh god, I forget. Shit. I'm gonna have to Google it. Marriage Story. He is a very prominent director, and I think they were together for
Noah Baumbach,
who made maybe one of my favorite movies of all time, Kicking and Screaming, which we did do, I think, a Defending Your movie of back in the day.
That's the coming of age, like college one, right?
Yes,
Not
and
the Will Ferrell soccer movie.
no, and that's what I always have to say when I say I like Kicking and Screaming, because
Kicking and Screaming is great.
The Noah Baumbach movie.
Yes.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
It's honestly, I could recite entire lines of that off the top of my head. It's you ever think you're having a bad summer, and actually you might just be having a bad life, like all that kind of stuff. All those lines are fantastic. It's the like definitive kind of auteur. I know everybody else is looking back at Godard and all the French New Wave people, but for me that was like his first movie. He was like 24. It's super sharply written. I haven't liked, honestly, I haven't really liked much of anything else that Noah Baumbach has done, but he made a movie that spoke to me when I saw it because I was post-collegiate. I graduated in 2001. It was a tough time to find a job. The dot-com crash happened, and that movie came out around that same time.
Yeah.
And I graduated from college, couldn't find a job, and I was watching this movie and like, holy shit, all these people are kind of like me.
That's the perfect time to see something like that.
Sure. Some movies hit you in a time and space and you just can't ever replicate it, but I will watch that movie any day of the week. Just a fantastic piece of work, and I'm glad Noah Baumbach is still around. I haven't liked a lot of the other things he's done, but
I think the only other thing I've seen of his is Marriage Story, and I was kind of just
no. Again, I saw the fight scene. I'm like, nope,
yeah,
I'm not gonna do it.
It's fine. It's well acted. It's well made, but like, and even I come from a family of divorce, and it didn't really bother me. But like, it's just like I was just kind of like, oh, that was it. Like after I saw it, I was like, that was fine, I guess.
I don't want to wallow in misery, and I feel like there are movies that do heavy themes and do it really well and make you feel like you're empathic with the characters, and then sometimes it just feels like you're just wallowing, and it's not something I want to do. I want to have a little positivity in my life, and I keep on saying this word privilege, and I realize that there's a lot of stuff going on that people have to react to and have to be engaged in. And it's very much a tough thing for me where like I really want to retract away from the heavier shit in life. And there's been a lot of heavy shit in the last half decade that has been really tough to deal with. And I think for my media consumption, I kind of just want to watch, what I go back to is Civil War, where Captain America is pulling that helicopter down and has that big old muscle. And I just go back and watch that and like, oh dude, look at this fucking biceps.
That is the most watchable movie.
I will.
It's so easy to just throw on.
I will rewind that helicopter scene and just watch his biceps bulb out. I saw him. I've told the story before, but I saw the entire cast of Avengers announced at Comic-Con 2010, I think. And Chris Evans, man, has been one of the most transformative kind of performers. That's really overstating things, but going from like Fantastic Four, where he was Johnny Flame.
Yeah.
And going into Captain America, has this grounded kind of attitude where he is like this centered kind of person. It's really been amazing to watch, and I really look forward to seeing what he does next, because I think he just has a great sense of kind of self, and I know he wants to do directing and everything like that, but I think his performance as Captain America is going to be, for a lot of people, like it's not going to win any Oscars or anything like that, but just super impressive to watch.
Yeah, it's crazy to think his first movie was not another teen movie.
Yeah, and he seemed like a snotty kid doing a lot of those kind of teen comedy kind of stuff, and even Fantastic Four was not his. But then he turned up in Sunshine and was just like
I always
this.
Forget he's in that.
Yeah, he did some. What is the line he has? Like, what are you here for? To remind us of our shared humanity or something like that. It was just this one-off line that I thought he delivered super well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. I mean, Civil War is maybe my, like, I always say Winter Soldier is my favorite Marvel movie, but Civil War is my most watched, just because we used to have a TV set up at my work, and we would throw on movies, and there were always two that I would throw on if nobody knew what to put on, because they were crowd pleasers, and it was Civil War and Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Sure.
They were on Netflix, everybody would love it, just throw them on.
Yep.
So I've seen both of those more times than I can count.
I mean, Tom Holland as an added addition to the MCU was understated. The whole story about him and the other actor they were trying to get as Spider-Man, where Tom Holland was like 6 months older, so he could be above the 18-year age where they could have him on set all day.
Yeah.
Versus the other actor, I think Sony wanted another actor to be Spider-Man, but he was like going to be so young that they could only have him for like 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
And Tom Holland was old enough to be like on set all day, which is why he got the role. And he seems like a good kid. Every time I see him in interviews,
yeah.
he seems like a really fun kid. I should rewatch Far From Home sometime.
Yeah, I finally just rewatched that for the first time since the theater. It's still fun.
Yeah,
I really
like
like him.
I think I've told the story before about Jake Gyllenhaal, where I went to South by Southwest to just go see the movies, and Source Code was the big premiere that year, and we were in a little tiny room. Pardon my burping. But Jake Gyllenhaal walks out, and he, to this day, the most attractive human being I've seen in person. Like,
I believe it.
stunningly attractive. And the front row of that little tiny theater was all University of Texas, like, co-eds who just came to see Jake Gyllenhaal. And it was kind of the, you ever see somebody like turn to her girlfriend and like flap him on the arm, like, oh my god, he's cute.
Yeah.
Oh, Jake Gyllenhaal, man, he's a dreamboat. And
I mean,
a very good actor too.
Yeah, no, he's great. I don't know if you've seen Nightcrawler, but that is one of my favorite movies. Oh my god, he is
a sleazeball, I hear.
Yeah, but it is such an incredible movie, and unfortunately, the director's follow-up wasn't as good, so I was super excited for that one. But
you ever watch Source Code?
Oh yeah, I got Source Code.
Oh, Source Code,
it's fun.
I might have overrated that to 5 stars, but I think that movie is like a perfect. What a weird. What's his name? Not David Bowie. The son's name.
Duncan Jones.
Duncan Jones. Holy shit, dude! That dude has not made any good movies since then. Like
No.
Warcraft sucked. I never watched the one about orcs on Netflix. I heard that was terrible.
Mute.
Mute.
That
That was the other one, I think.
did he do? I don't think he did that one.
I think he did do
the Will
Mute.
Smith movie. No, he didn't Mute, but the orcs one on Netflix.
No, I believe that was him. Yeah.
I'm not seeing it on
Let's
his.
double check.
Thing.
Duncan,
Wasn't
am I
no,
crazy?
that was the guy who did Suicide Squad. What the fuck is his name?
I don't want to cast
Right,
aspersions
is that what
on.
we're talking about?
I don't want to cast aspersions on. So he did do Mute. Okay, so he did Warcraft and then Mute, and I guess he's working on a Star Wars thing now. Warcraft was.
I think you're thinking of David Ayer.
Okay,
He did
maybe I'm
right. That was the Will Smith, Joel Edgerton. Like, what if?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
What a weird career. I hope he rebounds at some point. But Warcraft was a very, very bad movie.
Yeah, I am a big fan of video game movies, not necessarily because they're good, although there are some I think are better than people give them credit for.
Yeah,
But that's one I have never gotten around to watching.
yeah.
In commenting on something you said about the Raid earlier, in relation to that Mortal Kombat movie that came out recently.
That's a bad movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I enjoy it for what it is, but it's not good.
No.
But it's like you can't make those movies anymore after the Raid if you're not just going to go for it.
I really don't want to say that can't be the Raid 2 quality level movies, but I think for me, action movies are so. What I really hate are CGI blood, which I feel is kind of dominating all these movies now. And I think the Raid 2 felt like so physical, so immediate, so in the moment. And then everything else, like I thought nobody was fine as a weird, morally a weird
I still
movie.
haven't gotten to that one yet.
But all these kind of movies are either like a lot of gunshots where people falling down, big CGI blood coming out of them, or just, bad martial arts. Like I thought Mortal Kombat was a pretty bad movie. I didn't think it was well acted.
Scenes are fun.
No. It felt like a lot of fan service in a way that I don't mind fan service at all. Like I really appreciate that in a lot of ways.
It's pretty cheesy.
Yeah, poorly acted. A lot of anonymous actors who couldn't really do much with their roles.
I am a person who will unironically write a 5-star review on the original Mortal Kombat movie.
Sure.
And I wanted to like this one, and just there were elements of it, but outside of the
I'll give you a
opening
spoiler.
scene-
Like the end of part where a scorpion shows up, and this is a spoiler. Sorry. He says, "Get over here" in a dubbed over voice that is not the actor's voice. And it just kind of took me out like a Wilhelm screen. You know, a Wilhelm
Yeah.
screen will take me out of any movie. Like, okay, this is artifice. This is not. And that feels like a very specific thing to harp on, but the entire movie felt like that. Where
Well,
like,
it's also
get
weird
over
because
here.
he speaks in Japanese every other
Yes,
time, but then
and
for that one scene, he
English.
says it because it's the line from the game.
I like. I think Hayuda is the actor's name. I hope I didn't mispronounce that. I think he's a very talented actor. He's been on a lot of stuff, but oh man, there was so much. That was a bad movie.
Yeah.
The just yeah. I don't. What I think I learned from Screen is that it's not worth the time to harp on bad movies because there will be a million of them. Like people like movie. I hope if people like Mortal Kombat, people like anything else, enjoy it. Just I like the Godzilla movies for the most part. That first Godzilla movie that came out, the new one set in San Francisco, loved it. I really really enjoyed it a lot. I know a lot of people didn't.
Yeah, that one.
Hey.
I'm one of those people, unfortunately. Like, I have a friend who's a diehard Godzilla fan, and he's always pushing those movies. But like, I was like the first one. I was like, well, they showed me the best scenes in the trailer, and the rest of it, I was just kind of.
That's what I loved about it. Imagine. So I can't help but think about the whole process of making a movie. Like, you know, that movie had the scene in Hawaii where Godzilla shows up and then they cut away immediately to the aftermath. Imagine being like a movie executive. I spent $200 million on this movie and you're gonna not cut away from each fight until the last half hour of the movie. Like,
I want to say they clocked it, and Godzilla only has like what 8 minutes of screen time.
It's
like
a great 8 minutes though.
It
Holy
is.
shit.
No, the ending of that movie sticks
Oh,
with
it's
me.
fantastic.
Like when he shoots into that thing's mouth with his mouth
Oh,
laser,
it's
like,
I
that is
was
the coolest thing
clapping.
I've ever seen.
I was clapping and dying laughing at that thing. And the next like few movies, I think Kong Skull Island was really good in the same
that
kind
movie
of.
blew me away.
It was great.
Not expecting to like that.
That was like the pitch perfect kind of combination of, because Godzilla was pretty dour. Like there wasn't a lot of humor in it. Kong Skull Island was pretty funny in a way that didn't overshadow the drama of it. The rest of the Godzilla movies have been really bad, just awful.
Did you see Godzilla Kong? I didn't.
Yeah.
You didn't like that one?
No.
I only saw the first like 10 minutes, and then I got pulled away from it, and then after 30 days it goes off HBO Max, so that I wasn't able to watch it.
It's I appreciate the craft and all and they get like, you know, God, I forget the name. They get some pretty big actors. Like Sally Hawkins is in it. Like, I don't know what. I guess she got a paycheck, which is great because I like Sally Hawkins and pretty much everything she does. What's the movie she did that was so amazing? I freaking Mike Leigh movie from back in the day. But anyways, yeah. So I mean, I want to be entertained at this point. I don't want to be bummed out.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And yeah, like lately I've been like, I love a good dark depressing movie if it's told really well, but lately it's just been, I'm not in the mood for that, and just let me escape. Yeah,
there's so much about, you know, sexual abuse and things like that going on in the darker movies now, and it's like even Midsommar, I could get through Hereditary without too many problems. The new horror movies are pretty good, but a lot of it's so heavy.
Good uptake.
A lot of racial stuff and you know, sex stuff, and I just, it's tough for me to get into a point where I want to absorb that in my life in a way that is, and I get that, again, very sheltered. I'm choosing to be sheltered, and it's very privileged of me to say that I don't want to involve that, or I don't want to have that in my life, and it's not something that everybody can say, but that is a part of a lot of people's lives, but it's not part of what I want my entertainment to be about. Yeah.
No, I totally get that. So, you know, sorry, I don't want to take up too much of your time here, so I'll let you run off. But just before we go, I just want to ask: has there ever been any discussion between you and Alex doing any kind of like retrospective on screen?
I don't know. I mean, Alex is off on Next Center right now. We really have been excited. I can only speak for myself. Like, I know they're all doing their own thing. I think his stuff over there has been really impressive. Alex and we talked a little bit before he left Giant Bomb, but yeah, I don't know that. I mean, I think the amount of people that would be interested in a screened retrospective would be about 10 people at this point. But if it ever comes up, Joey and he and I are all in the same place at the same time, I'd love to do it. You know, I really do remember that part of my life in a very positive way. It was the hardest I've ever worked. It was definitely, yeah, the hardest I've ever worked in my life. It was a lot of work. I think we built something really cool that got cut out from under us for reasons that I couldn't, necessarily help. But I really do think that we did some amazing work, and I would love to have some way to, yeah, that actually is a really good idea. If anybody wants to do it at some point, maybe have a moderator come in and let's wrap around this whole year of quarantine and come back next year maybe and see if we can do a screened thing. Because I would love to talk to Alex about it more, but get his perspective too.
Yeah.
Because it was a heavy time. I think we all had an amazing time doing it. It was so much work, but it was a super fun time too.
Yeah. No, I think there would be people. Do you ever get anyone besides me kind of hitting you up about it anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I see people talking about the one thing that pops up every once in a while is this clip that Joey put together from Meet Joe Black, which is a movie I really like a lot from I forget the name.
I actually really like that movie.
Yeah, it's one of those really indulgent 3 hour long movies about unfortunately Claire Forlani cannot act for.
No.
If she had been replaced with anybody else, it would have been a much better movie, but I really do enjoy that movie a lot. But there's a scene that has Brad Pitt getting hit by a car and getting hit by another car and being looped around that Joey put together that will still show up from time to time for some reason.
Everybody always explains that movie as like, oh, it's the movie you remember for one scene, and I'm always just like, I like it.
No, I like that movie a lot. I think it's one of the... Oh God, Martin Brest, I want to say Brest. I want to say that's his name, the director. But that's one of the things that keeps on popping up. Little weird memes and gifs from Screened will pop up from time to time. Or people saying that I wrote a defending your movie on Hulk.
The Ang Lee one,
the Eric Bana, which I do like that movie. I think that was maybe one of the first. I think that may be one of the first defending your movies that we did because I like that movie so much. And I think some people still bring it up like, yeah, you thought Hulk was good too, so why would I believe you about anything else?
I mean, but that's why I wanted to do this as a podcast because, you said it before, it's not worth it to just cut down movies. Like,
no,
there's tons of bad movies. Nobody sets out to make a bad movie.
No, there are people who make intentionally schlocky movies, I would say,
yeah.
But there's always an artistic intent behind a movie, and honestly, most movies are bad. I would unhesitatingly say that there are so many movies coming out, indie, mainstream, at least bad to me. If your bad is a different level of acceptance than mine is, that's fine. But I think there's always, I don't know. I keep on, one of the things I always think about is this book called Understanding Comics by Scott McCloud, who one of the definitive kind of texts on what comics are. But he says, he goes through this whole thing about what art is. And, he has this little diagram of a caveman running away from a tiger. And he dodges at the last second of a tiger jumping. And the tiger jumps at him. He goes off a cliff and dies. And the caveman goes over and says, throws him a raspberry. And he says, that's art. If it's not procreation or survival, it's all art at some point. If you're doing something that you don't need to survive or live, it's all some kind of art. It's something that you're doing to creatively express yourself, and that's something that should be respected in any form. And a lot of art's bad, but even bad art is something that people believe in and are doing to express something that they believe in as well. So I always respect that part of it, even where we're doing those awful movies at the Big Book Live Show from J.A. Steele. Like that's still something that somebody put their heart and life into and took, weeks and months out of their time to put together.
Yeah.
I don't appreciate I don't like a lot of movies, but it's still something that somebody put their blood, sweat, and tears into and a lot of money. And it's something that I always feel like is, unless it's maliciously bad and offensively bad and like racist or anything like that, like it's still something that you should respect and appreciate for the fact that it is an artistic impulse.
Yeah, whether you don't like the story or the performances, you can appreciate the craft.
Yeah. Well, that's even
to a degree.
The craft is always something that might not be the best part of it either. But even something like, people have ideas, and the people have the idea to put, a movie together or a TV show together or a pilot together or a YouTube clip together. I appreciate the fact that people are doing artistic things, because I don't have that impulse in me at all. And that's why it was always weird to be a critic of stuff where I wasn't, necessarily, I'm not an art filmmaker or anything like that. And you always have to appreciate the fact that you are being privileged to have the opportunity to talk about something that might not be your cup of tea, but it is something that people put a lot of effort into, and you should always respect that.
Yeah, I mean, you were someone who knew that he liked what he liked.
Yeah, true enough. And all I could do at Screen was try to hopefully signal boost some stuff that people might not have otherwise gotten in contact with. And if I did that for anybody, for any movie that I really loved, that mission accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, it worked on me, and I'm sure it worked on others as well. But yeah, man, I wanna thank you for doing this. It was a blast. It was nice to sit here and talk to you about this and kind of go down memory lane.
Yeah, I apologize for being late. It's been a weird week.
Oh no, it's fine.
But hopefully it all worked out, and I will look forward to seeing what people say about this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we get out of here, do you wanna do some plugs or whatever?
I mean, hey, if you want to look at Giant Palm, giantpalm.com, we have a premium on sale until July 9th. We have a lot of new shows debuting this month as well. So if you're interested in anything Giant Palm related, please do look at giantpalm.com/upgrade. Take a look at Grub Snacks. We got Born to Run launching sometime soon. I'm not sure when this podcast is going to publish, but that's coming up.
August 2nd, actually.
Okay, well, in that case,
it's a little ways away. But.
The sale is over. You've missed out. But email me at support@giantpalm.com. I know, if you do want to have a premium at sale price, just let me know. DM me on Twitter, support@giantpalm.com, and let me know. And we will get you hooked up. But in the meantime, just check out Giant Bomb. Take a look at the new shows, and hopefully you enjoy.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate you doing this. This was a lot of fun.
I had a lot of fun too. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.